fellow pen lovers and stationery enthusiasts, it's Christy here, Snarky Wordsworth over on Instagram and Reddit, and today I am going to be doing a San Francisco Pen Show ink samples swatching video for everybody out there. So I met a ton of incredible people at the San Francisco show this year, and a couple of them were super duper generous and even shared a few vials of gorgeous fountain pen ink with me, and I just wanted to go ahead and share those inks with all of you out there. 3 of them are actually exclusives that I'd never gotten to see in person before, so I'm super excited about those, and they are definitely colors that are 100% in my wheelhouse, so really looking forward to getting those down on paper. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and get to the swatches. Actually, before we get to the swatches, let me just give a huge shout out to both Jannah, Lyon, and Gailyn from over at FountainPENdulum. If you're not already following them on YouTube and Instagram, you 100% should be. They are phenomenal. Gailyn actually runs a shop, FountainPENdulum, that makes these gorgeous wooden accessories for fountain pens. I am obsessed. I have a couple of pieces at this point, and I will be certain to get more. But yeah, I definitely wanted to give a huge shout out to both of them. They're the ones who let me sample these inks, and I'm absolutely grateful because now I have to track some of these down because I need a full bottle. But in any case, now we can go ahead and get to the swatches. Okay, first up is Muddy Puddle, which is a Diamine Cult Pens exclusive. This is a beautiful shimmer ink, and it's been on my radar for quite a while. I just kept missing it every time I would put in a Cult Pens order, but it is definitely going to be going on my next one. But yeah, lovely color. Okay, so Muddy Puddle is super duper interesting. At its base, it's got kind of a warm brownish gray tone, and then on top you've got this really vibrant gold shimmer. Now, it actually reminds me quite a bit of Diamine's Dusted Truffle, which was in their ink vent a couple of years ago, I want to say. I really love Dusted Truffle, and I really do think that this one is a very nice sort of warm version of that. I could certainly see myself using this a lot this coming autumn, and I do think it would totally work in winter as well. Now, I did not get a good dip, so that was my bad. But while I was writing with it, at least for the second part especially, it did feel quite wet, which is good. It's not a surprise either. I have found that Diamine does really good shimmer formulations. There are only a couple of their shimmer inks that I've ever had much trouble with, but this one feels like average to possibly wet flow. Of course, I'd need to use it in a normal fountain pen rather than my Sailor Dip, but this one doesn't feel like it would give too many issues. Now, it does have a good amount of shimmer all the way throughout the text. You can still see a little bit of shimmer even in the parts that are fading out, which you'll see better when it's totally dry and I lift the actual page. But I'm definitely excited to put this into the rotation. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to write with. Okay, next up is another Diamine Cult Pens exclusive. This one is called Murkey Bucket. Murkey Bucket. That is not like the most appealing name at first, but it is a really beautiful shade of navy, and it has gold shimmer. I love dark blues. I'm not like always a bright blue person, but I love the navies, the blue grays, the blue blacks, so I'm excited to get this one on paper as well. So this one I love. This is absolutely my kind of dark blue. You've got that navy, you've got a little bit of sort of purplish tone hinting through there, some grays, and then you've got that gold shimmer, and that just sort of makes it really, really pop. I don't know that I would call this murky bucket color. I've never seen a murky bucket look like this, at least not any murky bucket that I have ever used, but it is really, really cool. I do also love that it's a little bit less saturated. It's not like crazy in your face. So again, absolutely in my wheelhouse. You can definitely see a lot of the shimmer at the beginning. It does start to peter out by the end, but it's still absolutely present. It did not feel particularly dry. I wouldn't necessarily call this one a wet writer. It definitely felt more along the lines of average, but you know, again, it's always a little bit hard to tell with a dip pen, but I think this one would certainly work in most nibs. Definitely excited to try this one out. I think I know exactly which pen I want to pop it in. So keep your eyes peeled because this one's definitely going into an upcoming rotation. Okay, next up is another exclusive ink, and this one has maybe the best ink name I've ever heard. It is a Dominant Industries Wonderpens exclusive, and this is Chicken in the Sky with Diamonds. Now, I've heard a lot about this on both Reddit and on Instagram, so I'm very excited to be able to try it out, but we shall see. Okay, so love the shade. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I believe that this is supposed to be a bit of a chromo shader, but I'm not seeing a ton of that particular characteristic. I do see a little bit going on, and maybe it's just because it's still pretty wet. Within the text, you see a ton of shading in general. It is a really, really, really pretty shade of green. A little bit dry, but that's not a surprise. Chroma shaders tend to run on the dry side, but certainly not something that I couldn't work with, especially in a broader nib. I think that this one has a really, really nice color to it and some very nice characteristics, so we'll see. Okay, next up is a company that I've never actually used. This is Endless Alchemy, and this is the shade Drops of Mars. I think the bottles are absolutely stunning. They have kind of a slightly pointed bottom, so you have to use this special base in order to get it to stand straight. I am of a clumsy nature, and I very much fear that I would knock that bottle off so fast, and then the world would be full of ink. And that has honestly been part of the reason why I've not tried any of the bottles yet, but I'm very excited to actually get to try one of the shades so I can sort of gauge if it's worth the risk for me, but we shall see. This is actually a shade that I've been really wanting to add more of to my collection, so very, very timely. Wow. So this one is really exceptional. Right away, I noticed that this is a very wet writing ink, which I absolutely adore. It does have very little shading. I'm usually a shade girl, but that's just not something that happens here. And I honestly don't care because the color is just that beautiful. It automatically kind of evokes memories of the holidays, that sort of red velvet, reddish burgundy shade going on. It's very warm. It's very like, I don't know, vibrant in a way that I generally don't gravitate towards, but it doesn't, like I said, it's just kind of perfect. For whatever reason, in the text, it looks like there's almost a bit of sheen on the letters, which 100% there's not in the swatch. I'm not sure what's up with that because generally, if you're going to get sheen, it's 100% going to show up in that swatch, and it's not. So it may just be a trick of the light or my eyes going crazy, but I do like that there's a lot of depth to those edges. It really is quite interesting to me. And again, just that color is absolutely beautiful. So yeah, definitely excited about this one. Very nice and wet. Not too wet, but definitely a wet writing ink, and just a lovely color that I will really enjoy using during the holidays, I think. Okay, last but not least is a vial of ink that is still unknown to me. So in my last ink swap with Jannah, she had sent me a small sample of what she called a mystery Birmingham Pen Company ink. So I thought I was just supposed to guess what it was, right? Wrong. So the real story is that Jannah had ordered a particular bottle of ink from BPC. It arrived. She dipped a pen into it and was like, that is absolutely not what I ordered. It was instead this beautiful sort of pinky lavender color that I fell in love with, but it was, of course, not what she had ordered. They did send her the correct ink, but told her just to keep the bottle that she had. And so now it is a complete and utter mystery as to what this color is, but I am absolutely obsessed with it. I think a couple people on my last video with this one had said maybe it's Cherry Blossom, but when I looked at other swatches of Cherry Blossom, it seems a little deeper than that. I don't know. In any case, I love this shade, so very, very thankful that I have like a full vial of it now. Just as lovely as last time. I am not usually a pink tone girl, but I really like this one. I just think it's really, really interesting. Not a ton of shading, but you do have some going on, and just the color in general is just very, very nice. I 100% think this would look amazing in my Platinum 3776 Sakura. I definitely think that I'm going to pop that in there next. It's quite wet. I got a really bad dip, so don't let that be an indicator for you, but it is quite a nice wet ink, which is pretty much the norm for Birmingham Pen Company. I think this would work even in a very, very fine nib, and even better in, say, like a dry writer, right? So if you're looking for those things and you're looking for sort of like a somewhat moody pink, which I think I would describe this as, there's you know, enough lavender going on that it makes it very interesting to me. So yeah, if that is something that calls to you, make sure you try and figure out what this ink is. Again, some people were saying Cherry Blossom. I'm not sure, but it is really, really pretty. It has been about 15 minutes and all of the swatches are now completely dry. So let's go ahead and get some close-ups. Now here's that Diamine Muddy Puddle. So the swatch is absolutely beautiful. I mean, seriously. But of course, it really is the text that sort of shows what it's going to look like on a day-to-day basis. Now you can see that there is some shimmer all the way throughout the text. I do really love the shading. Like, hopefully that's coming out so that you can see it really does have some nice shading to it. Now, I did not get a great dip on that first try, but there is gold throughout, even towards the end where I'm really running low on ink in the dip pen. So I do think that bodes very well for everyday use. And I do think this is such an interesting color. I love that sort of warmish gray brown and then popping the shimmer in there in addition is just, I don't know, it's just very, very cool. Now, right below that is Diamine Murkey Bucket. Again, nothing like any Murkey bucket I've ever seen. It is this gorgeous, very shade-heavy navy blue with some black, with some very faint purples, and of course, some really, really lovely gold shimmer. It's not super in your face, but it is present all the way through the text. Now, this one was somewhere between an average to wet ink. I would definitely not describe it as purely wet, but it's not dry. It is really, really pretty. I love the light shading you get, and I do think that it's going to be really, really nice with that gold shimmer in it. I'm definitely excited because I know exactly what pen I want to put this in, so definitely keep your eyes peeled. Now, right below this is Dominant Industry Wonderpen's Chicken in the Sky with Diamonds. This one is a really pretty color. It is quite dry. Again, chromo shaders do tend to be a bit on the dry side. That said, look at that shade. That is lovely. It's a really beautiful color, really, really interesting shading. I'm not seeing a ton of the chromo shading elements. You definitely see it in the swatch itself. So there's that like pinky beige going on. But in the regular writing, it's just not super duper clear, at least not to me, but you do have a lot of just general shade, which is absolutely my cup of tea. I would definitely say pop it into a wet writer or a broader nib, just for ease of use. But other than that, it's a really, really nice option. Below that was the beautifully wet and Endless Alchemy Drops of Mars. This color, man, look at that. Not a whole lot of shade, or really any, to be honest, but just a beautiful color. Like this is like the holidays to me. I love this color. And it was very nice and wet. I loved writing with it. It was very, very like comfortable, I guess. And I think it would work in pretty much any kind of nib, which is very nice. So yeah, definitely keep that one in mind when you are looking for a lovely shade of this sort of reddish burgundy. This one is Chef's Kiss. And of course below that is my Birmingham Pen Company Mystery Ink. I have no idea what color this is, but I love it. Look at that shading, so pretty. And I'm not usually a pink kind of girl, but I just think this particular color is so interesting. You know, it's a little bit more subtle. It's got some lavender mixed in, and it's got a lot of shade going on. And it's one that I think I can use in particular pens that I don't really have inks for normally. So yeah. Really, really great color. Anyway, if you happen to have any questions about any of these colors, please feel free to pop those in the comments. I will answer as best I can. If you have any experiences with any of these shades and you want to share those, or if you have really strong feelings about them, 100% make sure that you pop those in the comments. That's really, really helpful, not just for me, but for other people who might be watching and have questions themselves. If this video has been in any way entertaining, interesting, useful, whatever, please do consider giving me a thumbs up or potentially even subscribing to the channel. As always, thank you so, so much for joining me. This was delightful. Thank you to Jannah and to Gailyn. These are great inks. I can't wait to, put them in rotation and actually get to use them in normal pens. So yeah, again, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye-bye.